Yeah, we're live? We are live. Okay, go ahead, sure. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay. I think Dr. George Siemens was a big draw yesterday. He was a massive draw. I think he was the one who drew the crowd yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah, George Siemens, that guy. Definitely, he was a super big shot. The MVP of Citers is Dr. George Siemens. Tweet that. Okay. 19 minutes. And counting.
Yesterday I found out that the desktop is not able to copy on it, so you better try another folder. I found that there's another folder under
right now.
E drive is user visitor. Cancel.
Okay. Okay. Start broadcast. Start record.
Yeah, no,
okay, live.
Alright. Just copy the PowerPoint under the system.
Okay, I'm just going to start. Thanks for coming. All for you. My name's David, and second-year PhD student at the University of Hong Kong. I'm presenting findings from my PhD study on pedagogical technologists. Title of my study is No Lone Rangers, Mutually Beneficial Partnerships in Hong Kong Primary Schools. I've actually changed the title of this presentation to make the findings clearer. If you want, you can find this presentation on my blog. There's also a back channel. Okay, let me provide some background on my research. I study pedagogical technologists. They aren't teachers in a traditional sense, in that they don't have a teaching timetable. They aren't assigned a content area to teach. They aren't given a year group to teach, and they aren't given a class to teach. They aren't technicians in the sense that their primary job is not to support the technical aspect of teaching through IT. Their primary responsibility is supporting the pedagogical aspect of teaching through information technology. I use the superhero metaphor because they do extraordinary things in schools. There are very few of them, and we don't have a very clear idea of what they do. And part of this idea of not having a clear idea, part of the problem is all the myriad job titles there are for pedagogical technologists. I created this term, pedagogical technologist. Here you can see many examples of different job titles. Right now they're bankrupt. We actually cannot, how would I describe this? Since this job is so new in schools, we don't have a standard job title for this yet. Now, few schools have pedagogical technologists because few schools have decided, hey, we want to make technology to transform teaching and learning a priority in our school. So the evolution of jobs to support teaching through technology coincides with the integration of technology into the curriculum. So, for example, when you decide to have computers in a school, you need technicians, right? When you decide to have technology as a discrete subject in school, you need a technology teacher. When you decide, hey, we actually really want to put a whole school effort into integrating technology into our curriculum and transforming teaching and learning through technology, maybe you need to consider a pedagogical technologist, a full-time role to support the pedagogical aspect of teaching through IT. Okay, so this is how I actually went about studying pedagogical technologists. I developed 5 cases. I followed 5 pedagogical technologists around for 10 months, and I tried to show a variety of cases, different examples of what pedagogical technologists do in their schools to impact schools' ways of working with and through technology. So since I want to show variety, I had to make some decisions about the kinds of pedagogical technologists I wanted to follow and the kinds of schools that I wanted to showcase as well. So I don't want to show you 5 cases of the same thing. I want to show you 5 things that are just a little different. Okay, so how exactly did I know what I was doing? If we don't have a clear idea of what pedagogical technologists do in their schools, how exactly do you go about researching all of this? How exactly do you go about exploring things? Well, what I did was I met these pedagogical technologists, and then I explained my research to them. We had initial interviews. We brainstormed episodes that I could observe and people that I could talk to, and we decided these based on opportunities for learning. Again, I want to show you a variety of ways by which pedagogical technologists impact schools' ways of working with and through technology, so we need to show you the good stuff. What are the opportunities for learning about each pedagogical technologist and his or her work in the school? So once I start collecting data, one thing leads to another, a snowball effect, right? I observe this, I see this is interesting, okay, then let's observe this, all right? I hear about this, so let's watch this. Oh, I hear about this person, let me talk to this person. So this is a snowball effect in research. Okay, let me go to the findings and discussion. So what exactly did I find out? I found out a lot of things, and here's just one of them. I found that in the schools where pedagogical technologists work in schools, well, I noticed that these pedagogical technologists work more closely with one person than perhaps another person. All right, so this is compared to just a pedagogical technologist working by himself or herself, or working with 2 or 3 people closely. I noticed that, well, this pedagogical technologist spends a lot of time with a particular person. And what I noticed was the roles of the different people, in fact, were different. All right? It wasn't just like the pedagogical technologist spends a lot of time with teachers. It could be another pedagogical technologist, a teacher, an administrator, even a vice principal. And there are a variety of practices as well. All right? So the pedagogical technologist has a mutually beneficial relationship with someone else in the school. They collaborate together and develop technological, pedagogical change practices. And this generally involves a good deal of technological, pedagogical knowledge. Okay. So what are some of the reasons for having these mutually beneficial partnerships? These partnerships where the pedagogical technologist and the partner and the school benefit. And these are just some of the quotes from my research. And one of the important factors is reach. If you work by yourself to innovate, well, you can only reach so many people in your school with your innovation, because I only know so many people in the school. For example, if I work in a school, I only know you 2 guys. For some reason, I don't know those people, or I'm not very close to those people. However, if I know someone else, it increases the likelihood that if we work together in developing technological, pedagogical change, that this person can also reach other people in the school, unreached people. All right? For whatever reason, maybe those people are afraid of me, but aren't afraid of that person, so that means that if they need help from me, for example, they can go through that person. All right? So it increases the reach of technological, pedagogical change in schools. It increases the pedagogical technologists' reach. Okay, another finding, augmenting technological, pedagogical knowledge. And Dr. Siemens mentioned that yesterday about hunches. 2 brains are better than 1. 2 heads are better than 1, right? So if I have this knowledge, and then another person has a similar degree of knowledge, it could be lesser, degree, but a similar degree, then perhaps we can improve the quality of technological pedagogical change that we work on, right? The sum of our knowledge is greater than our individual knowledge, which is why it's important to work together, right? So when you have someone else who's experimenting or testing things for you, well, you know what? That's going to make you smarter when that person reports back to you and shares what's going on. In the same way, when you share what's going on with that person, you help to make that person smarter. Okay, so what does this all mean? So there are mutually beneficial partnerships in schools. Well, it's a different way of doing things, right? It's a different way of operating because in a lot of schools, you just have people innovating by themselves. And as Dr. Liu was talking about, it's hard to scale up these changes, right? Because you're just working by yourself. And you only know this number of people. So it's a way to also not only improve the reach of your innovations, but also it's a way to improve the quality, as I said. If you're just working by yourself, you're in charge of monitoring all the quality processes of this teaching and learning innovation, right? And basically that's no more than amateurism, right? You need another person to help you to develop what's going on in the school. And it's a new way of transferring information. Right now, in most organizations, they operate by silos, top-down command and control approach to change, right? It comes from the top, we're going to fix everything, and then it gets put on your head, right? But with pedagogical technologists and their partners, well, you can horizontally transfer knowledge. That is, you can meet all sorts of people in the school. It's not just a top-down approach to transferring technological pedagogical change, but a horizontal approach. That is, you and your partner are able to reach all sorts of people, parents, teachers, administrators, with the technological pedagogical change. Okay. So what? All right, who cares, right? Most schools don't have pedagogical technologists. Most schools are not in a place to transform their teaching and learning through technology, all right? So who cares, right? What I'm saying is the findings from this study can be applicable to most schools. Even though most schools don't have pedagogical technologists or they aren't at a place in their technological pedagogical journey to have one, the findings can still be applied. How? We have to really emphasize the partnerships in schools. One, what can schools do? Like a local school in Hong Kong. Identify who the champions are, all right? Who are the people with great technological pedagogical knowledge? Who are the people who are advocate champions, people who want to facilitate change, all right? And again, we have to have an open mind about this. They could be parents, students, administrators, teachers, someone else, all right? We have to actually keep an open mind. We have to be aware of who those people are, the champions in the school for change. We also have to be able to identify who are the other people in the school who are interested in change. All right? May not necessarily have all the knowledge, but they're interested in doing more than tinkering with their teaching and learning. Then what do we need? We need access. All right? These champions should be encouraged, not forced, to really mingle with people, all sorts of people in the school to find partners. People that they can work with to, again, scale up the technological pedagogical change. And oftentimes this just has a lot to do with physical space, all right? And this actually was very important in findings. Just providing people with a common room where people can sit together and talk. And again, it's important to remember that all of these partnerships are not compulsory. In a sense, they're voluntary, for which reason they are mutually beneficial. No one's forcing you to do these kinds of things. So what do we need to do? We actually need to foster these partnerships by identifying the champions, allowing these champions to meet with each other, and allowing other people in the school to find these people in the same way that you allow these people to find other people in the school. All sorts of people in the school. And that often entails having similar physical spaces, putting people together, all sorts of people together. Okay, I'm finished. Questions?
David, during the time of your research, have you seen that more of these people have come into being, as opposed to being spread around?
These partnerships.
More of these new breed of teachers, do you see more being created or being possible?
Like pedagogical technologists? Yes. During the course of my study, these 10 months, I've met all sorts of people, and even I've met people at this conference who are becoming pedagogical technologists. That is, their schools are deciding, hey, we need a full-time person to support the pedagogical aspect of teaching through IT. It's really exciting. There are schools in Hong Kong and in Asia that are taking this step right now. Would I say unfortunately or coincidentally, they all just happen to be international schools as well. That doesn't mean that local schools can't have pedagogical technologists, right? But again, there are different reasons, right, for why a pedagogical technologist can exist in one place and not in another. But there are more places where pedagogical technologists can exist in Hong Kong and in Asia.
That means your research is based on the international schools in Hong Kong rather than the local schools?
It wasn't based on the international schools per se. I found these pedagogical technologists, they just happen to work in international schools.
Mm-hmm.
So there may be pedagogical technologists in mainstream schools, I just haven't found them yet. But again, if there aren't any, well, we can start to understand how the structure of these schools leads to them being in certain places in their technology development so that they can or they cannot have pedagogical technologists in their schools.
But I think that might be a cultural issue here because I think basically when we're talking about managing change, people tend to resist change.
Yes.
Okay, I think in particularly for Chinese culture. And even though if let's say if I were a school teacher, and if I'm interested to make changes, but according to Chinese culture, we try to create a harmonized culture within the school. So if I would like to create changes, that in that case I might create some kind of chaos, inside my division or maybe my school. So I might tend to hide away even though I might like to join and make changes. So that's why I will keep silent. I won't talk to the senior guys. So I just keep silent because I find I'm very lonely.
Yes.
I don't want to create some changes.
You're a lone ranger.
And then create trouble to my colleagues.
Are those schools, schools who have pedagogical technology implementing the mobile learning and e-learning?
They, again, let's not use these terms. They are very aware of how technology impacts teaching and learning, and they're very priorities to, again, use technology in a way to change teaching and learning to improve it. So in that sense, yes, they could be interested in e-learning or mobile learning or game-based learning or any of these kinds of things.
Replacing textbooks?
That could be the case, or developing their own textbooks or books or e-books. That could be the case as well. It depends on the school and the context.
As far as I know, some local schools, they are implementing e-learning at some primary schools.
Yes.
And did you go over there to see if they have pedagogical technologists?
No, I did not. Again, all schools are, to a degree, becoming more aware of technology. I cannot visit every school. I know most schools have IT coordinators who are teachers, generally the IT teacher like I was, and then given the extra responsibility to facilitate technological pedagogical change. But that's not a pedagogical technologist, because a pedagogical technologist is not a teacher in a traditional sense. Just full-time changing things.